Good evening. Thanks for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Shereen Bhan. The headlines we're tracking for you tonight. The Sensex and the Nifty end at 5-month highs as bulls maintain their winning momentum. Nifty Bank ends at a record high. Auto and real estate stocks leading the charge today. India's trade deficit narrows to just over $15 billion, the lowest level in 21 months. Imports drop 14%. Exports also fall nearly 13%. The government is not optimistic about export demand pickup, only expects it to pace up after September. The Supreme Court defers the hearing in the Adani Hindenburg case. Market regulator SEBI files a fresh affidavit reiterating its request for a 6-month extension to probe the allegations. SEBI says it's approached 11 overseas regulators in connection with the probe in minimum shareholding norms, and the first request was made in October of 2020. The National Company Law Appellate Tribunal reserves its verdict on a plea by aircraft lessors against the moratorium granted to Go First. The verdict is likely to be pronounced on the 22nd of May. Nearly 7 years after its introduction, the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code has resulted in the resolution of around 10% of total cases. Creditors have taken haircuts of nearly 70% on admitted claims. Who will be the next Chief Minister of Karnataka? Former Chief Minister Siddaramaiah heads to Delhi to meet the Congress leadership. The state party president D.K. Shivkumar also in the fray. Turkey heads towards an unprecedented runoff as President Erdogan fails to muster more than 50% of the votes. Opposition leader Kılıçdaroğlu gets 44% of the votes compared to Erdogan's 49%. The second round of voting will take place on the 28th of May. Voters reject Thailand's military rulers as opposition parties emerge victorious in national elections. Move Forward Party emerges on top, plans to form a coalition government with other opposition parties. Ukraine's President Zelensky flies to London to meet British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. The UK joins Germany and France in pledging more military aid to Ukraine. India's largest multiplex chain PVR posts a loss of 333 crore rupees in Q4. Revenue growth largely in line, margins ahead of estimates. The board approves a 100 crore rupee fundraising. This is the first quarterly earnings of PVR and Inox as a merged entity. Also on the show, we speak to apple farmers who welcome the government's decision to impose restrictions on imports. A special report coming up. Well, let's start with the action from the markets. A sharp rally in auto and real estate stocks took the Sensex and the Nifty to their highest level seen in the last 5 months. The Sensex was up 300 points, the Nifty gained 80. The Nifty Bank Index gained nearly 300 points, ending the day at a record close. Foreign investors remain net buyers. Provisional data from the NSE shows that FIIs bought more than 1,600 crore rupees. Domestic institutional investors were also net buyers at more than 190 crore rupees. Prashant is standing by to take us through the market action. Prashant, a very strong start to the week for our markets.
Well, so close, yet so far. Not very far, but not quite there. That's, I think, the best way to describe things. And I'm talking about not the Nifty, but the Bank Nifty, which came within 10 paise of hitting an all-time high, the previous all-time high of 44,151.8. We got to 0.7 today. And then, of course, I mean, after that, in the last hour, the market did come off a little bit, which put some more distance between where we closed and where the all-time high is. You know, in sports parlance, and for example, football, you could say that the goal was missed. The ball hit the goalpost, the crossbar, but didn't quite go into the nets. You know, maybe tomorrow. We're not very far away. The Nifty is about 2% away, though, to be fair. Let's come to the market action in terms of what happened. Broader markets, both the mid-cap and the small-cap parts of the market did better than the Nifty and the Bank Nifty, about 0.75% gains there. Market breadth was positive. Large-cap stocks which did well, Hero, Tata Motors, ITC, Tech Mahindra, Lever, Hindalco, a few names. Losses in the Adani Group stocks, Cipla, BPCL, many of them, of course, are reacting to earnings over the last 3 days. Broader markets, buzzing. DLF, I mean, big gainer on the back of volumes. Zensar Technology, Newland, for the second day in a row, did very well. Soba Developers was the other big real estate name which was buzzing. GE Shipping, we had the management with us. Ujjivan Small Finance Banks continues the rally, results rally from last week. VST Tillers, LG Equipment, Prestige, Repro, and so many others which did quite well. Losers as well in the broader space. Home First, we understand some private equity investors sold. D-Mart, apart from Adani Enterprises, Transmission, Total Gas were also down. Ethos saw a sharp cut. South Indian Bank, CEAT, which has seen a sharp rally, came off as well. These were a few amongst many others as well. I mean, I think all eyes will be on all-time highs, especially for the Bank Nifty. Will we get decent global cues, and can we get to that as we start another session tomorrow morning, right at the word go? I think that's front and center in terms of mind space as we go into tonight's Wall Street session and, of course, look forward to tomorrow. Back to you.
Prashant, many thanks for joining us. That was the equity market action. Here's the commodity market action for you. Crude oil prices remain steady as tightening supplies have competed with concerns of fuel demand weakening in top consumer markets. Meanwhile, gold prices have risen as the U.S. debt ceiling stalemate and concerns over an economic slowdown have steered some traders towards the safe haven metal. India's wholesale price index for April turning negative for the first time in nearly 3 years. This is the 11th straight month of a decline in the WPI. The drop was broad-based and largely driven by a fall in prices of basic metals, crude, energy and chemicals. Now, India's goods trade deficit for April has declined to a 21-month low of $15 billion. Imports witnessed a sharp fall of 14% from the previous year to nearly $50 billion, while exports slumped to $35 billion due to the global slowdown and a crash in prices. However, services exports rose 25% year-on-year to $30 billion. And staying with the trade picture, the Director General of Foreign Trade has said that export demand will remain muted and expects a pickup only after September. Abhimanyu standing by with the details. Abhi.
The DGFT has said that the rupee trade pile-up with Russia is not due to normal trade issues, but is due to the pile-up of defense payments. Also, he said that the global demand for exports is expected to remain muted till September or October, as he expects the demand to pick up in United States as well as Europe, as well as he expects the Chinese economy to open up. Speaking on the carbon tariffs imposed by Europe on 7 commodities, he said that the actual impact is still being gauged since India only exports 2 out of those 7 products, namely steel and aluminium. India is also coming up with its own carbon credit trading system. It remains to be seen till what extent a congruence is going to be established between both the systems between India as well as Europe, and whether this tariff barrier is going to be removed anytime soon.
Abhi, many thanks for joining us. Now, Adani Group stocks came under pressure in trade. Adani Enterprises, Adani Green, Adani Transmission and Adani Total Gas lost between 3 to 5%. The group has announced plans to raise up to 21,000 crore rupees from qualified institutional buyers. Adani Enterprises board approved a proposal to raise over 12,000 crore rupees, while Adani Transmission's board approved raising of over 8,000 crore rupees via QIP issue. The combined market cap of the conglomerate has dipped by 25,000 crore rupees in the last 24 hours and nearly 10 lakh crore rupees since the Hindenburg report was published late in January this year. The Supreme Court has deferred the hearing in the Adani Hindenburg case. Market regulator SEBI has filed a fresh affidavit reiterating its request for a 6-month extension to probe the allegations. SEBI has said that it has approached 11 overseas regulators in connection with the probe on minimum public shareholding norms, and that SEBI's first request in this matter was made in October of 2020. Ashmit is standing by with more details. Ashmit, there is confusion on what SEBI has said in this fresh affidavit that's been filed. One aspect of the affidavit seems to suggest that SEBI is saying that there is no probe underway. But if you look at the details of what the affidavit says, as far as the minimum public shareholding norms are concerned, SEBI does acknowledge the fact that a probe is underway, and the probe there seems to have started on the 6th of October 2020.
Indeed, we've seen many off-the-cuff remarks, in fact, being shared across the bench as well, whereby comments were made as to by when and what exactly SEBI has been doing as far as these allegations are concerned. They've been answered in part by way of this rejoinder that SEBI has submitted before the affidavit, before the top court. Important clarifications coming this from the market regulator. Number one, SEBI admits that as part of its ongoing probe into the minimum public shareholding norms issue, it has been at it for a while now. In fact, SEBI says that as a part of the International Organization of Securities Commission, SEBI has reached out to as many as 11 overseas regulators. SEBI points out that these are transactions that are done across multiple jurisdictions. Information needs to be collected from multiple jurisdictions, and to that end, it has reached out to 11 overseas regulators. And in fact, the first request went out as early as October of 2020, which significantly predates the Hindenburg report, which came out in Jan of 2023. So that's the first important bit of clarification. The second is, at the last hearing, at the previous hearing, the petitioner has made an assertion that there is some kind of probe that SEBI had launched from beginning in 2016. Clarifying against that assertion, SEBI says that the investigation that began then was a probe by the SEBI, by the market regulator, into issuance of global depository receipts, or GDRs, by 51 listed entities here in India. SEBI clarifies as a part of this affidavit that none of those 51 companies were any groups or companies related to the Adani Group. So with that, SEBI reiterating its plea for 6-month extension, all eyes now on the top court to decide on the merits and whether or not to allow that relief to the market regulator.
All right, Ashmit, appreciate you joining us. So will an extension be granted? Will a 6-month extension be granted, or somewhere between now and 6 months? We will have to wait to see what the apex court decides. PVR, India's largest multiplex chain, registered a net loss of 333 crore rupees in Q4. It had clocked a profit of 16 crore rupees in the preceding December quarter. Revenue came in at over 1,143 crore rupees. This was PVR's first earnings season after its merger with Inox. The multiplex registered a footfall of over 30 million, with the average ticket price being 239 rupees. The National Company Law Tribunal has reserved its verdict on a plea filed by Go First aircraft lessors opposing the moratorium that's been granted to the airline. Meanwhile, a UK-based aircraft leasing watchdog has put India on the watch list with a negative outlook after Go First filed for insolvency. In its warning, AWG says that India has failed to comply with international aircraft repossession norms by granting Go First a moratorium preventing lessors to repossess aircraft. The Vadia Group, the promoters of Go First, have hit out at the watchdog. The Vadia Group said AWG should hold its own members accountable for failing the Indian aviation industry instead of issuing a warning to India. And staying with aviation, the Aviation Working Group's warning follows the change in perception about India as a high-risk aviation market. According to consultancy firm Primus Partners, Go First moratorium could perhaps change the approach of lessors towards Indian airlines. This could translate into higher risk premiums, which essentially mean higher lease rentals for airlines. Madiha joins us now with a deep dive on why lessors are feeling anxious after Go First insolvency. Madiha, clearly this is an exciting aviation market. It is a market that's poised to grow, but there are concerns that lessors have in light of what we've seen happen.
India is quite an important market for aircraft lessors, but it has also burned their fingers in some cases, especially in the last few years. Let me give you a larger context on where India stands when it comes to leased aircraft. India has about 700 commercial planes, and 80% of these planes are on lease. So India is hugely dependent on lessors. One, because delivery of new planes takes time, and two, airlines mostly follow a sale and leaseback model. Hence, you will see that Indigo, Go First, SpiceJet and Vistara are all mostly flying leased planes. Now let's come to why the Go First moratorium has left lessors worried. Lessors aren't keen on staying with Go First's insolvency process because it mostly takes several months to conclude, and this could mean that aircraft will remain on ground unused instead of being leased to any other airline which is more stronger. Then there is constant depreciation in the value of the aircraft if it stays on ground for a long period. Another major worry is other creditors of the airline like oil companies or airport operators seizing the aircraft to recover their dues from the airline. Lessors are also against staying with the IBC process as they often have to take a deeper haircut on their dues. And in worst case scenarios like liquidation of assets, they may not get any money at all. Now, these concerns are not new. Lessors have faced huge losses during the grounding of Kingfisher Airlines as well as Jet Airways. In Jet Airways insolvency matter, lessors had claimed over 14,400 crore rupees, of which 2,290 crore were admitted. And that too is not paid yet by the Jalan Calrock Consortium. It is estimated that Go First owes over 2,600 crores to various aircraft lessors. SpiceJet 2 is seeing aircraft deregistration requests, but we don't have any clarity yet on how much it owes to lessors. So all this put together explains why lessors are likely to attach a high-risk premium, increasing lease rentals for airlines. And as Primus Partners predicts, this could increase air ticket prices for you and me.
Madhya, many thanks for joining us. It is now time for a deep dive into data from the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board. Around 10% of the total cases under the IBC have been fully resolved. Creditors have taken haircuts of around 68% on admitted claims. Sapna standing by with more. Sapna, since its inception to now, take us through the milestones that the IBC has been able to clock.
Absolutely. So the 5-year track record of IBC has been, quite historic in that sense. But if you look at the total number of resolutions that have gone through, and as of March end, there were around over 6,500 cases with IBC, out of which around 69 to 70% cases have actually been closed. So when you say the case is closed, either liquidation or settled, or resolved. So let's look at the resolution under these circumstances. Out of the total universe of over 6,500 cases, only 10% cases have gone through the resolution process. That number is 678. That's it. Out of 6,500 over cases, 678 cases have gone through the resolution process. And if you look at it in terms of the smaller universe, which is the number of cases closed, around 4,500 cases have been closed, which is pretty big. Out of that also, this is just 27%. So that's one indicator of performance in the last 5 years. Also, let's look at some of the very basic facts. For example, even if you look at earlier reports of Standing Committee on IBC, a lot of questions had been raised on this haircut business. So this haircut business is still very much visible. In the last 5 years, if you look at it, under these cases which have been closed, 9 lakh odd crore was the worth of the original claims brought in by creditors. And these can be financial creditors, these can be operational creditors. Out of that, around 2.65 lakh odd crore was the was the fair value that had been decided. Out of which, of course, around 3 lakh odd crore has been recovered. But this is what, around 32% of the original claims submitted. And, even in terms of the fair value, that is only for 586 cases out of the 678 which has been decided. So that comes to a big number of 83%. Now, a large number of the industry and the government has been focusing on this 83%. People are not really talking about the 68% which is actually gone. What are the reasons for that? What needs to be done? There are some important recommendations which have gone to the MC on this front, how IBC should be kind of, reviewed, relooked and kind of restructured, but we really don't know what is the status of those recommendations as of now.
Sapna, many thanks for joining us. The big national story this evening: after a thumping majority in Karnataka, the Congress is staring at a dilemma. Who will be the state's next chief minister? State party President D.K. Shivakumar and Siddaramaiah, who held the state's CM position from 2013 to 2018, are the top contenders. Both have been vocal about their chief ministerial ambitions. Siddaramaiah is in Delhi to meet the Congress leadership. Shivakumar also expected to fly down, but he said he was not travelling today and cited a stomach infection. Addressing the media twice today, Shivakumar said he delivered on the promise made to the Gandhis and Mallikarjun Kharge, adding, and I quote, "A single man with courage delivers majority."
We have passed a single line resolution leaving to the High Command. We have, under my leadership, 135 MLAs. All of them with one voice have said that the matter will be left to the High Command. I don't have any single number. I don't have any personal number. Whatever my number is, the Congress number. I had assured Srimati Sonia Gandhi when she appointed me in the mid-time also. I assured Rahul Gandhi. I assured Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge ji that my aim is only to deliver Karnataka to the Congress party.
The battle for the Chief Minister's seat in Karnataka. Time for us to head into a break, but up next, Thailand voters reject royalists, choose reforms, while Turkey is headed towards a runoff as neither presidential candidate managed to muster 50% votes. Our global election corner on the other side.
Let's you and me Step out and see how blue the sky, how tall the trees. Cause forever.
Skoda brings you Kushaq and Slavia, India's safest family cars.
When our big boss was MD, he used to take care of us.
And our Prince Sahab is busy insuring his family. Oh, big boss, you?
He's busy obtaining term insurance for his family. After all, office is also our family, am I right?
Let's close the deal.
Thank you.
Verma ji, will you have tea with this prince?
LIC's Group Term Assurance Plan takes care of your office family.
The Indian Met Department has issued heatwave warnings for the East Coast over the next 2 to 3 days. In addition to that, it's also warned of heavy rainfall across northeastern states in the next 5 days. Taiwan-based Apple supplier Foxconn and the Telangana government have performed the groundbreaking ceremony of its new electronic manufacturing facility near Hyderabad. The Telangana IT and Industries Minister K.T. Ramarao said Foxconn will invest $500 million to set up the plant and is expected to create 25,000 direct jobs in the first phase. Turkey's presidential election is going to a runoff for the first time in its history. Both President Erdogan and his main challenger have failed to muster more than 50% votes needed to win the election. The opposition leader Kılıçdaroğlu got 44% of the votes compared to Erdogan's 49%. A second round of voting will be held on the 28th of May. For Erdogan, a loss this election could mean an end to his 20-year reign. Voters have rejected military rulers as opposition parties emerge victorious in what has been termed as Thailand's most pivotal election in decades. The Move Forward Party, led by 42-year-old Peter Limjaroenrat, has emerged on top and is looking to form an alliance with other progressive and like-minded parties. But the road to power for the reformist parties may not be easy. Take a look.
Thailand's progressive and reformist opposition parties have won the most number of seats in the general elections, striking a body blow to pro-military parties which have ruled the South Asian state for close to a decade. The youth-led Move Forward Party, marking its election debut, is set to win a total of 151 seats in the 500-member House of Representatives. Remember, 100 out of these seats are allocated to parties on a proportional basis. The party has promised to scrap the draconian royal insult law and usher in a new kind of politics that would end the stranglehold of the monarchy and the military over Thailand.
What we had promised that it will be without the military-backed parties, and it will be an MOU based like the Western democracy, where it's transparent, where it's concise, where it's expectation management of what can be done and what cannot be done.
The Pheu Thai party, helmed by the Shinawatra family, has won 141 seats. The pro-military United Thai Nation Party of Prime Minister Prayut fared poorly, lagging at 5th position. The election results would be formally ratified after 2 months. But here's a caveat. The 250-member Senate, who are appointed entirely by military officials, votes for the Prime Minister along with the House of Representatives. A candidate should get at least 376 votes to sail through. In the last election in 2019, the Senate had voted unanimously for Prayut, despite his party winning a lot fewer seats than the Pheu Thai. He was later able to cobble together a coalition of 19 different parties. The leader of the Move Forward Party has said that he has invited the Pheu Thai and 4 other opposition parties to form an alliance. So, while the road to power for the reformists may not be easy due to the complex parliamentary practices of Thailand, they have a lot to celebrate right now. Bureau Report, CNBC-TV18.
And back home last week, the government issued a notification and banned the import of apples that cost less than 50 rupees a kilo. Indian apple farming community has welcomed the ban. They say this will finally enable them to compete in the market and help them get better prices for their produce. Sante Gora gets us more.
India produces 2.45 million tons apples annually. Kashmir, Himachal and Uttarakhand are the major apple producing states with over 9 lakh apple growers. These apple growers play a key role in the economy of their respective states, but last few years have been difficult for these farmers. Increased production cost and competition from big corporates meant the Indian apple growers were facing losses. But the government notification has thrown Indian apple growers a lifeline.
Earlier last week, the government issued a notification and banned the imports of apples costing less than 50 rupees per kg. This cost includes insurance, cost of the fruit and freight import cost. This decision will keep the cheap imported apples out of the Indian market. Farmers say these cheaper imported apples, especially Iranian apples' low cost, made it impossible for the Indian apple growers to compete and caused them huge losses.
Indian apple growers have welcomed this decision.
उससे भारत के हम किसानों बागवानों को बहुत बड़ी राहत मिली है। भारत सरकार के जो आयात शुल्क को वहां चोरी किया जाता था कम इनवॉइस भेजकर, उसको भी उसमें भी एक भारत सरकार के रेवेन्यू में इजाफा होगा।
हमारी जो सनद है, हमारी फ्रूट इंडस्ट्री को बहुत आगे फायदा होगा। तो हम एक बार आपकी वसालत से, आपकी चैनल की वसालत से उनका तहे दिल से शुक्रिया अदा करते हैं।
Apple growers also claim that there is no exception given to South Asian Free Trade Area countries, and this will also help the farmers.
साफ्ता के तहत, साउथ एशियन फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट के तहत जो सेब भारत में आता है, उस सेब को भी जो है वो यहाँ भारत में अब वो इलीगल रूट से एंटर नहीं करेगा, क्योंकि इस नोटिफिकेशन में साफ्ता जैसे देशों के लिए कोई भी जिक्र नहीं है। नहीं तो साफ्ता के तहत कोई भी आयात शुल्क भारत में नहीं लगता था, और अगर साफ्ता में भी 50 रुपये इसको मान दिया जाएगा, जो इलीगल रूट से अफगानिस्तान के रास्ते से भारत में सेब आता था, उस पर भी एक बड़ी रोक लग जाएगी।
India imported 4.48 lakh tons of apples in 2021-2022. Iran's market share of this import was 23%, and farmers say due to lack of proper vigilance, these imported apples were illegally capturing the Indian market. This notification will put a full stop to this.
It was not only that they were sending us the cheap, but they were attacking our trade models. So that was a big concern for us, wherein they were utilizing all those mandis which are only for the selling of domestic apples. One cannot sell the imported apples in those in APMC in these mandis. So that was a big concern for us.
Various Indian horticulture organizations who were seeking a ban on cheap imported apples for years now are claiming that this notification will bring huge relief to the Indian apple growers. After this ban, these organizations are planning to seek an increase in import duty of the apples. They claim that this will discourage massive imports and will force government to enhance and increase in-house production to meet our domestic demand. In Mumbai, Santiago.
Well, that is the latest there on the government's decision to ban imports of apples less than 50 rupees a kilo. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for watching. Do stay tuned. The news continues here on CNBC-TV18.
What if you could make analyzing